Hola algebra students, this is Ms. Carranza and today we're going to review what we've been studying in lessons 8.4 and 8.5. If you look back to your notes for 8.4, that was solving by factoring. We dealt with quadratic equations that had variables on both sides and it had quadratic terms, linear terms, and sometimes constant terms. With those problems, when you see a linear term, your job is to move all the terms to one side of the equation and to obtain a zero on the other. So again, whenever you are solving by factoring, your goal is to have all of your terms on one side and then zero on the other. And the zero could be on the left side or the right side. Okay, go ahead and write down what I have on the screen and then push play when you're ready. So pause the video, write down what I have written down, push play when you're ready. Okay, first example, the nice thing is that it's already equal to 0. You can see that it is a quadratic trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. To factor this, we need to multiply the first coefficient and the constant term and find two numbers that multiply to that answer, so 1 times 15 is 15, and add to the linear term, which is negative 8, to the coefficient. So you're going to list all the factors of 15 starting with 1, check 2, check 3, etc. Find the two that would add to negative 8. Play around with your positives and negatives till you get the combination that works. Since my leading coefficient is 1, I can use the shortcut method for factoring this and go straight to the binomial answers. And then my binomials are x minus 3 and x minus 5. But since we are solving, you're going to go one step further and set each of these equal to 0. Now, my suggestion for these videos is for you guys to just listen to the problem as I explain it the first time, and then rewind the video and listen to it again, and then that time copy the steps. So right now you really shouldn't be writing this. You should just be listening. Okay, so my two solutions are 3 and 5. Okay, if you're ready, go ahead and move on to the next problem. Okay, in this next problem, I see that I do not have all the terms on one side. This one has quadratic terms on both sides of the equal sign. So when you have quadratic terms on both sides of the equal sign, I always told you to cancel the smaller one. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel and move it to the left side. So as soon as I decide that I'm moving it to the left side, I also need to move everything else to the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and also, well, first combine like terms. So 9w squared plus 15w equals negative 3w. I'm going to continue moving everything to the left side. Oops, I put that under the wrong spot. Remember, you got to combine like terms. I was putting a linear term with a quadratic term. So I have 9w squared plus 18w equals 0. Anytime you have a quadratic and a linear term, you want to try to solve it by factoring. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and this is a binomial, so I'm going to check for GCF. Always check for GCF. I used to tell you that all the time in class. Okay, so the GCF for 9 and 18, remember I showed you a way to find it. Take the smaller number, divide it by the bigger one, reduce. So your GCF is 9. However, they also have a W in common. So your GCF goes in front. The remainder is 1W plus 2. Since we are solving, you need to set each factor equal to 0. So on this one, you have 9 times W. You're going to divide both sides by 9. And on this one, you're going to subtract. Okay, remember, you should be watching the video and listening the first time and then rewinding, and the second time that you listen to it is when you write things down. Okay, number 3. All right, do you see how there's a linear term on both sides? So I'm going to go ahead and remind myself that I'm solving by factoring, so I need all my terms on one side and a 0 on the other. I'm going to look at my quadratic terms and figure out which one is the smaller one. That's the one that has to move to the other side. And now I'm going to, little by little, start combining like terms by canceling the terms from the right side and combining them with the terms on the left. So again, I had already decided that I was going to move everything to the left side, so I'm going to keep on doing that and making sure that I keep like terms together. You can put a 1 in front of the K if you want. Now, one thing that I noticed when you guys were turning in your homework was that you're not being really careful when you're combining like terms. So you're making little mistakes like -8 plus 1. You're telling me that it's -9. So please make sure that you're double checking your math. You can do it in your head first and double check it with your calculator. Okay, this is a quadratic trinomial, but the leading coefficient is not 1, so I cannot use the shortcut. Here I want to multiply 2 times -15, that gives me -30. I need to find all the factors of 30 and find the combination that's going to add to the coefficient of the linear term, -7. So I'm going to go ahead and find all the factors of 30. 4 doesn't work, 5 times 6, and then that's it. Okay, so pause the video and tell me which of these pairs of numbers will multiply to -30 and add to -7. So pause the video. I really want you guys to do this on your own and then push play when you're ready. Okay, the correct numbers are 3 and -10. We cannot use the shortcut, so we are going to factor this by splitting the middle term into a positive 3k and a negative 10k, because if I wanted to, I can combine those and I'd get -7k. Remember, factoring doesn't change the value of a problem, it just changes what it looks like. So now I'm going to find the GCF of the first two and the second two terms. So pause the video, find the GCF of the first two terms and the second two terms. Push play when you're ready. Okay, you should have gotten a GCF of k and -5. And then the remainder, so if you divide both of these two terms by 1k, or if you divide both of these by -5, you get 2k plus 3. Okay, your last step is to solve each one of these to obtain your solutions. So set each one equal to 0. Some of these require a little bit more work. Some of them you can do in your head. And some of you might be able to find the solution without doing any work. once you get to this step. Okay. So that was a quick review of lesson 8.4. Part 2 of this review is to go over lesson 8.5, how to solve by using inverse operations. Now, inverse operations is a fancy way of saying SADMAP. It's the backwards order of operations. Inverse means backwards, or pretty much like the opposite. So PEMDAS is the order of operations. Inverse order of operations is PEMDAS but backwards. Now, if I ask you to solve something by using SADMAP, you should notice that we do not have any linear terms. So you might see something written in standard form, but it's missing the linear term. Or you might see something in vertex form, where it's got, do you remember a binomial to the second power? That's vertex form. Okay, so that's when you're allowed to use SADMAP. Okay, now the goal of SADMAP is to cancel subtraction and addition first. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. And your job is to get that variable isolated or by itself. So at this point, I am using SADMAP. I already checked for addition and subtraction, got rid of that. Now I'm looking at for multiplication or division with my variable. It's being multiplied with 3, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by 3. Now I'm going to check for exponents. I've got an exponent of 2. That's a square, so I'm going to square root it. And remember we said when you square root a negative, you get no real solution. Try it on your calculator. Square root -4. It's going to say error. Okay, so that is SADMAP for number 1. That was standard form. Okay, number 2. This one is written in vertex form. So here I'm following SADMAP, but remembering that parentheses should always be my last step. Cancel subtraction and addition. And remember, you are never allowed to distribute when you have a binomial squared. So you can never distribute when you can't distribute the 4 and you can't distribute the squared when you have a polynomial with an exponent. Okay, my job is to get that m by itself. So little by little, I got rid of the addition and subtraction. Now I'm on to multiplication or division. I'm going to divide the 4 because I cannot distribute it. Okay, now what should I do? I need to get rid of the exponent. The exponent is a 2, so I'm going to square root it. When you square root a positive number, you got to remember to put plus or minus because it's got 2 answers. So square root of 9 is, in this problem, is not just 3, it's plus or minus 3. Okay, so I got rid of the e for exponents, and now I'm on p. I got to get rid of what's in the parentheses. And so I'm going to have a positive 3 and a negative 3 that I'm going to do plus 3 to. And I'm going to add 3 to. So that's 6 and 0. I like to write them from smallest to biggest. Remember, the first time you're watching the explanation of these problems, you should be writing nothing down, just listening. And then the second time, rewind the video, try the problem on your own, or listen to it and write it down. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and try this problem? on your own. Remember, we are using SADMAP. So go ahead and pause the video, try it on your own. Just ask yourself, what would I get rid of first? What would I cancel first, etc. And then when you're ready, push play. Okay, first things first, get rid of addition and subtraction. Always take a look at where your variable is. You're trying to get rid of the numbers that are on the same side as that variable. That takes care of the subtraction and addition. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the multiplication. Remember, you're not allowed to distribute when a polynomial has an exponent. Just realized I forgot that this problem had a -5 over here. I copied it wrong. My bad. So I'll take a minute and fix that. That should have not been a 0. That should have been a -5. When I add -5 plus 5, I get 0. So now I'm on the step of dividing by 3. 0 divided by 3 is 0. And now I am on the e, the exponent. I need to cancel the exponent of 2, so I'm going to square root both sides. Remember that when you square root 0, you only get one answer, and that's 0. When you square root a positive number, you get 2 solutions. When you square root a negative, you get no real solution. So square root of 0 is just 0. Now I'm finally on the P of SADMAP. Remember, I was following along with SADMAP. I'm going to go ahead and cancel the whatever's in the parentheses. And I get n equals -7. So sorry to those of you that did the problem when it was set equal to 0. That was completely my fault. It should have been equals -5 at the beginning. As always, if you need extra help, feel free to email me or send me a message through Remind, and I'll be happy to help you. Have a good day, guys. Bye.